Welcome back to Have You Met Her Yet? Today I have Wemi Found from Moments of Love and Naomi Love Designs. Thank you so much for joining me, Wemi.
I am more than happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're so welcome. So just a little bit of background. We went to elementary school together, which is so
Too
crazy
many,
to think about. How
too
long
many moons
ago?
ago.
Too many moons ago. When I was thinking about how long it's even been that I've graduated university, and then you put graduated high school, and then you put graduated elementary school, it just is so crazy to think about all of the
Yeah.
lives that I'm sure we've both lived in between that time.
Well, yeah, I stopped counting after university. I said I can't keep up, and I stopped counting. I'm just old now, and I'm going to accept that.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Well, anyways, we always love to get started by hearing a little bit more about yourself. So, what your story is, what you do, and how did you get to where you currently are today?
That's a loaded question for me. Um, so, like, I went to university, and I went to undergrad. I cannot speak today. I went to school for a business degree, and in my third year of school, I said, screw this. I don't like this anymore with 1 year left.
Yeah.
And decided that psych was the route for me to go down instead. So I switched and went over to psych and decided, you know what, might as well add communications to this. When it was all said and done, I graduated with a psych degree with a minor in business and communications, which led me to my career in social media marketing, online marketing. I kind of started social media marketing literally as it became a thing. So my first job was just, we don't know what this is. Here you go, run with it and figure it out and promote.
Yeah.
And that was my first go at it. And I spent 5 years with that company. And I kind of got pregnant in my fifth year. And after mat leave, decided not to go back because ironically, I met my husband there. We worked together. And during our time there, he became a partner. So by the time I got pregnant, it was just a little bit awkward to be a partner's wife in the company.
Right, right.
Significantly during my mat leave. When I left, there were about 20 of us. By the end of my mat leave, it was about 80 people. So
Wow.
known as just like the boss's wife. And I didn't really want to go back to work as the boss's wife because I had my own merit that I wanted to stand on, but it's hard to
Yeah,
justify that to others.
of course.
So I kind of thought about what to do with my time being home with the little guy. And I stumbled upon the planning community. And when I say that, it's a very interesting term. I never knew it existed until I got into it. So what that means is, if we all remember in elementary school, we all had little school agendas, and I've kind of kept my agenda life going since elementary school. So being a mom, it just came in handy so much for writing down everything. I just became this huge planner girl. And being in there and seeing all the creativity that exists in that community, I said, you know what, I really like this. And one thing led to another. My husband challenged me. He said, you know what? You can make some of these things yourself. You can design yourself. And I said, you know what? You're right. I can. So we went down that road and I purchased a few machines, a few printers, and here I am.
Wow.
I have my little planning stationery shop going. And that's kind of how I got down that road. And then down the Moments of Love YouTube road, I started that with my husband. It was in our early dating years, we love to travel and we would just go to places. And I said, is it okay if I, film this? He was still my boyfriend at the time. So I started kind of filming our journey together. And because we worked together, we drove to work together every day. And on our drives, we would have these great conversations. And we're like, we should record this because this is just funny conversation. Like, why don't we put this on
Yeah.
camera? So we just kind of started like that, just recording our random chats on our drives to work and our drives home from work. And that's how Moments of Love was born. So those are the two
Cool.
tracks that I'm on, and that's how they both came to be.
Yeah, no, that's really incredible. I mean, first of all, incredible that you were able to collaborate with your husband, have the support from him, but also have that creativity aspect as well. I am 100% a planner person and girl as well. I am obsessed with writing things down and um, I get so excited every year when there's like a new agenda that's coming out and like
Yeah.
something that's new and exciting. So that's really, really incredible that you took something that you already loved, you already were passionate about, you made it your own, seeing that you had the full capability, the skill set to do that. Is really amazing. And I always love to hear how entrepreneurs get started. You know, what was their brainchild? Like, what was that creative spark moment that came about that? So that's really cool to hear. And the Moments of Love blog or vlog that you've put together is so incredible and so personal. I highly recommend anyone to check it out. I think that everything that you've created, like you said, you're just sharing moments that are human moments where you're driving to and from work. They're natural husband and wife, I'm sure, moments, sharing that like banter back and forth. So
Oh,
it's
yeah.
kind of cool that, again, you've taken those things that are a part of your everyday life and you've built a business and a brand behind both of them, which is really cool.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was.
Yeah, amazing. Really, really cool. So I know you kind of touched on this already when you decided to sort of start the blog, start the YouTube channel. When you were doing all of that, was it all self-taught or did you take any courses? Did you just kind of trial and error? Like, kind of what can you tell us a bit more about that?
I have always been a an interesting person in that I love to teach myself. I did
Yeah.
best in school with online classes. I don't like sitting down listening to someone else talk all the time. So everything has been self-taught. I have learned as kind of as I've gone along, as my business has grown, I've learned new things. YouTube was literally a just let's start this and see what happens. I've watched others and kind of grown along with others as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, for the most part, it's all just been watching and learning from what I see other people do.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's really, really incredible. Um, do you have any resources that you can share with someone who wants to start a YouTube channel or any tips for anyone who doesn't maybe feel like they have the skill set, they're not confident, anything that you can share?
Ironically, if you want to start a YouTube channel, YouTube is your best friend. That is the best thing I could say is YouTube is your best friend. That is where
Yeah.
I learned everything for both of my businesses. We're literally from watching YouTube videos. What do you want to know how to do? How to pick up a camera and record? Type it in on YouTube. You'll find an answer.
Yeah,
So
that's so
that's
true.
honestly been my number one resource has been YouTube and everything because my husband, for example, he prefers to get his information through quick reading, quick summaries. I'm a
Right.
visual learner. I prefer to watch videos. When we're doing like our home renos, he'll have a question for something. I'll say, babe, I'll watch a YouTube video. I'll be right back. And he's like, I already found the answer. I already read it. It's done. But I need to watch a YouTube video first. So
Yeah.
that's number one resource that I found out there is just there's so much to learn on YouTube. And the
Yeah.
best part is you can pause and try out whatever the person just said. A
Yeah.
second resource that has come in handy in terms of branding and really learning the branding aspect of the business has been Skillshare.
Oh,
I
okay.
did sign up for that about a year and a half ago.
Yep.
And that has really helped me fine tune my skills a little bit more to learn my specific niche just a little bit better. I think it's a great resource, and you can always find links online and get a little free trial to get started. And I think it's honestly, it's fantastic for both sides of the business. It's great.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. I haven't heard of that resource before, but that's really awesome. With your platforms, how have you kind of like curated your audience? Like, where have you been sharing? How have you kind of built the audience that you have currently?
The first way is I have way too many Instagram accounts.
How many do you have?
I currently have four.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I have
I
four
have
that I
about four or
manage.
five right
Yeah,
now.
it's a lot. So every now and then one of them will kind of fall to the wayside.
Yeah,
But
of
that has
course.
been the greatest way. With YouTube, I find it's people love to get that personal touch. And the best way to get that is through Instagram, where people like you and I post more frequently. It's easy to post something. You don't have to edit it as much. You don't have to think, have the perfect lighting, have the perfect look. You can just share something and keep it moving. Likewise, the planning community, same thing with Instagram. There's a whole world out there.
Yeah.
Specific to the planning community that exists on Instagram. So I made sure I have my Naomi Love Designs account, and over there I share all of my planner stuff. I follow planner girls, I chat with planner girls. A few of my best friends right now are people that I met in the community that we literally only ever talk online because we live in opposite sides of the world, but we've just kind of become a part of that community, and we talk, and we develop just more of our craft that way as well.
That's amazing. It's really cool when you can lean on others in your industry, people who are doing exactly what you're doing, don't have the competition, you're just there to kind of share and vent and learn and work together.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's a really, really cool thing that entrepreneurs do. And again, it just, especially if you're a solopreneur, sometimes it's really, really difficult to do things on your own.
Oh, yeah. You have your customer
Yeah.
service. You are the creator. You're the designer. You're the shipper. You are everything in one.
Yeah, everything. So, yeah, I guess so to confirm, are you a one woman wonder with both of your businesses?
I am a one
Yeah.
woman wonder. When our YouTube channel started, my husband did help me a lot with that, but his business has just gotten so busy that I don't even bother anymore. There was a point where he helped just do little things like create outro clips. But then it got to a point that I would have to wait and wait and wait until he had time to do it. I said, you know what, I'm done. I'm
Yeah.
doing this myself now. And
Yeah.
at that point, I kind of just took it all over myself. And yeah, I run it all right here.
Amazing. Yeah, I love that. I love sharing that because sometimes people don't realize behind a brand who actually works there. I mean, some successful brands, you think, oh my God, they must have tons of people who are answering the DMs, who are sending this out, shipping, customer service, all that other stuff, finance. And then you realize it's only one person behind all of that. And generally, as entrepreneurs, we're not skilled in all of those areas. So it's really difficult to wear all the hats, right?
Exactly. And everything won't run perfectly. And the first step is accepting that you
Yes.
can't be perfect in every single aspect. So just
Yeah.
find what you can be perfect at and rock it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So with your YouTube channel and your planner business that you have as well, how are you creating content? Like, what would you say? Where do you get your inspiration from, or where are you coming up with ideas of things that you should be sharing?
So we'll start with the planner stuff. That's the easiest, and I put that in air quotes because it's not easy, but
Yeah.
I find because it is something that is time driven, people are people tend to be looking for content that's specific to the calendar. Right?
Right.
So that does make it a lot easier. And what that looks like on my end is I try to put out products 3 to 4 months ahead of when they'll be needed, because one, that gives people time to find it. Then it also gives people time to make a decision to purchase and
Yep.
for me to get it to them in time. And in these COVID days, we all know the mail system is
Oh my goodness.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
So on that side, I think that's my biggest inspiration is just looking at the calendar and figuring out
Yeah.
what do people want, what do people need to do with Father's Day or summertime, just literally content around the calendar. That's how I work that aspect of the business. On the
Yeah.
YouTube side of things, that has been tricky. I would say at the start, it was easy because we kind of just went with what we wanted. And if
Right.
you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't.
Right. Right. Right.
But over time, we fine-tuned that, and I've come to a point like recently, we used to really be heavy with vlogs, which is just literally sharing our day-to-day lives, sorry. But as my business picked up and my husband's business picked up, we found our lives got too boring for camera. Meaning I was just sitting there working half the time. When I wasn't working, I was parenting. And when I wasn't doing that, we were having dinner as a family. And
Yeah.
it wasn't much to really capture in those moments. So I made the decision to kind of end that aspect of our channel and switch over to something more specific. And right now I've been trying to fine tune that a little bit more, and that's sharing what makes us unique. So with
Right.
my family, that's sharing our music, it's sharing our food with people, it's just sharing the different things we do. Travel is a big part of that. Unfortunately, right now, that part of the channel is on hold because we can't leave our house, and I'm gonna cry. I miss
Oh
travel so much.
gosh.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
Um, but I would say kind of generally, we do just our content is strictly based on the world around us.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, that's great. So I mean, we've already kind of touched on it, but you know, COVID obviously has disrupted businesses like crazy. Was your business always online, and did you have many things to do to kind of shift that?
I've always been online. I've always worked out of my home. And I would say the biggest impact COVID has had is with suppliers,
Yeah,
with getting things to me. But in
yeah,
terms of when I get out to customers, there's been zero impact on that end. And surprisingly, when COVID kind of hit the fan, I was a little bit nervous, like, oh, people are going to be naturally, they're going to be spending less, they'll have more less disposable income coming their way. But for some reason, and I think I'm one of them, people have been shopping more during COVID.
yeah,
And
yeah.
this has been just crazy since COVID
Oh,
started.
amazing. That's great.
So, and I'm one, I've been shopping a lot more than I should be, admittedly. So I have seen a rise just in that aspect of people doing more shopping and
Yeah,
having a lot more work on my plate during,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I mean, it's definitely affected businesses in so many different ways, whether people have completely lost business or whether they're completely booming. So it's so crazy to see the differences of what's been happening, and it's great to hear that you've definitely been thriving.
Yeah, and
Um,
ironically, I was one that when it started, I was very much against my own business model because I was like, guys, don't spend any money. Hold on to your money. We don't know what's going to happen with COVID. Stop buying this. You don't need planted stuff right now. That's the one thing you don't need.
yeah,
What makes people happy
of
just a little
course.
bit of joy during this time where they can't do anything else. So I
Yeah,
had to just accept that. But I felt very guilty
yeah.
at the start of when I saw the boom. They're like, guys, please stop spending. I don't think you should be doing this. But I totally get it because I am the same way. Just makes you, it's a little bit of joy in your mailbox. When
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah. Receiving anything like just seeing a different thing come to your door was just such joy during these times.
exactly, that's not a bill.
Yes, exactly, not a bill. So speaking of all of that, working from home, running your business online, um, your son, so you have already homeschooled him before this moment in time, is that correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
We had been considering it for quite a while. And as of last September, he turned 3 in March of 2019. We decided that come September we would give homeschooling a try because school age isn't until 4 anyway.
Yep.
So we said, you know what, he has a year until he starts public school. So let's see what happens for the year. Let's try it out. If we like it, we'll keep going. If we don't, then he still has time to get into the public school system. So we started that September 2019 and we have loved it. It has worked out really well for us. It was not
Wow.
at all a path that neither of us ever saw us taken because we're
Yep.
both very anti-homeschoolers. So it's ironic that we are here homeschooling our son, but here we
Wow.
are.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess it wasn't as much as a shock to your system when everything kind of changed. You guys already had a good routine and everything.
Exactly. We do miss the social aspect because we did have
Of
our
course.
weekly things that we did with other people, with other kids. So
Yeah.
that part we've lost, but for the most part, it's been business as usual here. My son, when it
Amazing.
started, would be like, Mom, we go out today? Can we do this today? No,
Oh,
no, we're staying home. We are staying home. Thankfully, the questions have stopped. He now just says,
yeah.
and sometimes my mom will kind of try to play a joke on him and say, hey, Ella, are you going to go shopping today? And he's like, no, Grandma, because of COVID-19, all the malls are closed. Like, yeah.
I cannot believe that again that this is it. I mean, that this has been a thing, and just to explain it to a child must be so confusing for them to have to stay inside, can't play with friends, you can't hug anyone. I mean, it's just such a confusing time for them.
In his case, the shutdown happened over his birthday weekend. His birthday was March 16th.
Oh.
And I think the shutdown started March 15th or 16th was when they started.
Oh my
So we
goodness.
had planned a birthday party with family and friends. And here I was on the morning of Monday, March 16th, like, well, I guess this cake is for the three of us, and we're going to bake it. We had a 2-tier cake, and we ate it by ourselves.
Oh my goodness.
Because at that point, we could have still had people over, but we just felt like, it's such a risk. Is it really worth it? We don't want to be the family that gets everybody sick.
Right.
So
Yeah.
we told everyone and said, don't come over. It's
Oh.
okay. We love you all. We'll send you some video calls or whatever, but we canceled the party and we ate the cake as a family.
Oh my goodness. I mean, if anything, it's a memory to have of,
Oh, yeah.
remember that birthday when we did this. But yeah,
Oh, yeah.
it's just so crazy. All of the moments in time that have had to be canceled and postponed and et cetera. So one thing I wanted to talk about, I know it's kind of not a question you can't really say too much on because things have been canceled per se this year. But what were your goals for your business before all of this happened?
Before all of this happened, I'd say one thing that I had been considering was looking into a rental space.
Okay.
For myself, just to kind of be able to test out a storefront idea. With a pop-up shop idea. I have a friend who runs a bakery. So she had been looking into split a little bit of space with me, and I do a pop-up shop, and she has a bakery beside it there. So I considered that. And then COVID happened, and
yeah,
we're not gonna do that. We're just gonna be home for the rest of 2020, maybe next year.
Yeah. And thankfully, again, you have that online space. Definitely something to consider in the future, of course.
Oh, absolutely.
But yeah, it's hard for these goals that you had so much hope and aspiration behind, and we just had to kind of look at them a bit differently.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I wanted to do a quick quarantine speed round with you, because I know a lot of people have had different experiences like you have. So I'm going to ask you a few questions, and I want you to just tell me the first thing that has come to mind. Okay. So what has been your takeout food of choice?
Ooh, Thai food.
Thai food. Okay. Your Netflix or Amazon or whatever you stream guilty pleasure?
Everything.
You've completed Netflix.
I have made it through my list a lot more than I planned to.
Yeah. What item of clothing have you worn the most?
What have I worn the most? Honestly, I am the outlier in the group, but probably my jeans.
Oh, okay.
Most people have been rocking their sweats,
yeah.
But because I've naturally just always been home,
yeah,
I used to always go out, come home, and get into my sweats every single day. But now my husband's home, like, well, I might as well feel like I'm doing something special every day. So I wake up and I get dressed every day so I have somewhere to go, and then I just stay home.
But you know what? That's a good routine to have. I'm sure it puts you in a good mental space to feel like you're doing work, you're kind of being productive, etc. So again, this one might be a bit hard because it seems like your daily routine hasn't changed that much. But what has your actual daily routine look like?
It's been wake up, get in the shower, get dressed, have breakfast, start homeschool. We homeschool right up until lunchtime. We have lunch as well, not really as a family. Me and my son have lunch. My husband usually works through his lunch because he's always on calls. But we have lunch. He takes a nap. We wake up and do homeschool again. And then we just hang out in the evenings. And then I start working. Once he
Yeah.
goes to sleep, then I start working. And I usually work till about 1 o'clock or so.
Oh, so night owl for sure then,
Yeah.
eh?
That's why I'm not interrupted by my little man saying, Mom, Mom, Mom.
Oh gosh, I cannot imagine. I mean, I know with my husband being home, we for sure interrupt each other all the time. But having a little one around, I mean, that for sure would be really distracting and hard. Yeah. Have you done anything out of the ordinary, like create a new project or hobby?
Out of the ordinary. You know what I have? I have dabbled in makeup.
Oh,
Yes, I
okay,
have dabbled
okay.
in makeup. I was never really a makeup girl, and ironically, I got into it right at the end of February. I was like, I want to try this makeup thing. And then COVID happened. I was
And
like,
then nowhere to
perfect.
go.
I'm going to wear all the makeup in my house and practice, and no one else has to see how ugly this is while I learn.
Well,
So
you
that's
will be
been my hobby.
professional by the time this is all done.
Exactly. That's been my hobby, learning how to do some makeup.
Oh, that's hilarious. I love it. Have you read any books?
Oh, yes, I have. My goal for this year was to read 24 or 28 books,
Oh,
something like that.
wow.
And I am on book 14, I believe.
Oh,
So
wow.
I'm doing all right.
Oh,
I'm doing all right.
yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, I probably read about 10 of those in the first 2 months of the year. So
Yeah.
it's been a pretty slow 3 months here, but it's because I've had some really crappy books that I've had a hard time getting through.
Right, right. So is there like a top one that you've read this year that you'd recommend?
Ooh, yes, two. We were
Okay,
the
two.
lucky ones. We were the
Okay.
lucky ones. Georgia Hunter. It's a
Yep.
book based on World War II.
Okay.
And From Scratch by Tembi Locke. And that definitely made me cry. And I have never cried
Oh.
from a book, but I cried reading that book. So those
Oh.
are the two books I recommend. They're both awesome books. They're both kind of autobiographical a little bit.
Yep.
So yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll definitely share those in the show notes so people can check those out. Um, do you have any funny stories from FaceTimes or Zoom calls?
Ooh, funny stories. Well, our friends and I, we started this, I think it might have been the first week of quarantine, and we haven't missed a week yet, but every Friday night we do a happy hour call on Zoom. There's about
Amazing.
13 of us. We got on there around 5, and we get off whenever everyone's dinner is ready. We all say goodbye. And on Saturdays we play random games. We do trivia games, and that starts like 8 o'clock. We'll go till 1 or 2, whoever's the last one standing. And a lot of drinking is involved.
Oh, of course, of
A lot of
course.
things involved, and just playing some awesome games. I'd say I'm not sure if you've heard of Jackbox, but that's been like our biggest.
Oh, no, I haven't.
It's essentially like a game that runs through PlayStation, and you all
Okay.
play this game through your phone, but you can see the results on Zoom together.
Oh,
So we've got some pretty cool games going. There's a murder mystery one that we love to play, and we have one couple that always wins every single time. What a trip. So that's been awesome. We're usually laugh. We pretty much always lose at trivia, except for my husband's company. They did trivia just 3 days ago, and we won. We're like, yes, we're around people who are not so smart finally. Versus like with our friends, we always lose.
oh my goodness. Yeah, that's frustrating, but hilarious that you guys keep coming back. And I love the different games. I would love to know more about the murder mystery one. I love stuff like that.
Yeah, it's awesome. We've done that every single weekend since March, and
Oh,
it's awesome.
oh, that's awesome. I love that. What would this is a really good one. Where is the first place you will travel when we are allowed to?
Anguilla. Don't
Okay.
I wouldn't
Yeah.
even I wouldn't even skip a beat in saying that. Anguilla. Like I'm just waiting, like let me out. Let me
Yeah.
out. I've got places to go.
Oh my gosh. Um, what is one thing you hope doesn't change and that you want to keep from all of this experience?
The slow pace has been amazing. Not having any committed plans has been amazing. That's
Yeah.
probably the best part is my Saturday mornings, I have nowhere to be. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
No one that I have to say, no, I can't make it, or yeah, we'll be there. There's just nothing. And it's
Yeah.
amazing because, with just regular social activities, there's things you go to, some you don't want to go to, some you do.
Yeah.
And just not having the guilt of saying no to someone or feeling like, okay, fine, who wins or what do we do today? And by doing this, I can't do that. I love that I'm in charge of my schedule
For
entirely.
sure. For sure. Yeah, it's really important
That I would.
to, pardon?
If I could keep that, I would.
Yeah, no, that's a really important thing. I do think a lot of people burnt themselves out from overbooking, overscheduling, always saying yes.
Yeah.
And the power of no is incredible. And the power of giving yourself time and care and not overbooking and the busyness that we were all obsessed with. I do hope as well that that's something that stays
Oh,
for
yeah.
sure. And so the last question I have for this speed round is, if you could describe quarantine with one word, what would it be?
Blissful.
Love it.
I know most people don't feel that way, but in our home, it's been blissful.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. I'm so happy to hear that. So back to your career. Do you have a professional mentor or anyone that kind of inspires your career?
I do. So on the planning side, I've become very close friends actually with one of the people who started out in the community as she was, I believe, one of the first Black females in the space. And ironically, over time, her and I have just become very close. I was one of her customers, and I just kind of put myself in her inbox all the time, like, hey, how's it going? I've built with very great friendships. So she is one of my mentors. She now has her line in Michael's stores all over US and Canada. So I do definitely take a lot of advice from her on expanding your business and getting into the retail space that way.
That's great. That's really awesome. I'm happy that you have that, and the support as an other entrepreneur is really, really powerful. Do you have one piece of advice that you could give a woman on how to overcome challenges in the workplace?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I'd say for me, one of the biggest challenges is standing your ground and staying true to yourself. I know it's a huge challenge that I believe a lot of women face in not wanting to be labeled the wrong way. So for me, I'd say my biggest advice there is, even when it seems tough, speak up for yourself.
Amazing,
I
amazing.
believe you'll regret more of the things you don't say than the things you do say when it comes to your career.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, I think it's a very important message, because I do think women sometimes feel like they're not allowed to have a voice. They're not allowed to disagree with something. They're going to be seen as a bitch or hard to work with or, moody or whatever the label's going to be.
The
Yeah.
long list.
Yeah. The long list. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So you have your two businesses, you have a husband and your son. How do you kind of keep everything balanced? What is your secret sauce to balance?
My secret sauce is going to bed at 1 a.m. But honestly, before that, it took me a while to find a nice balance because when my business first got into the swing of things and I was really burning the midnight oil, I would find I would be up till 4 or 5 a.m. And at that time, my son was still young and he would be up at 7 and demand my attention. So I probably kind of kept up a lifestyle like that for 5 or 6 months or so until I started seeing, my son was a year and a half or 2 at that time, and he would walk around pretending to be a printer. And that was my first wake-up call that I was doing too much.
Oh my goodness, that's really funny.
pretended to be a printer. Oh my gosh, what have I done to him? And he would literally walk out like, and he would be making printer noises, and they were perfect noises. They sounded just like a printer.
Because he's
And that
heard
was
it
my
so
first,
many times.
exactly, because that's all he heard all day long was mom's printer. And we would go to playgroup, and there would be my son in the corner using every toy as a printer. And I was
Oh
like,
my
okay, I think I'm
goodness.
doing too much work when he's around me. So that was
Yeah.
my first wake up call as to find a way to balance my time, especially while he was awake and needing interaction, and all he was doing was sitting down watching mom work.
Yeah.
So at that point, I kind of made the conscious decision that, you know what? What's the point of half-assing this and half-assing parent and half-assing your work? Because truthfully, while he's awake with me, I'm not fully concentrated. So at
Right.
that time, I kind of made the switch with my schedule and said, okay, in the mornings, he gets my full attention. During nap, whenever he goes down to nap, I usually get 2 to 3 hours of a nap out of him. I buckle down and I get as much done as I can in that time. And then when he goes to bed at night, same thing. And the greatest help there is my husband. He's very helpful. So when he comes home from work, I'm essentially off duty, right? I make dinner and we eat dinner as a family. And once we're done having dinner, I get to focus on my work. And
Amazing.
the rest of the evening is mine to have. So that's how I balance the mom and work aspect. The wife aspect is interesting. As I said earlier, there was a point in my business where I was the one up till 4 or 5 a.m.
Mm-hmm,
And over the
mm-hmm.
last year and a half, roles reversed, where my husband had a huge product that he'd been working on since January 2019. And literally since then until, when did they release? May. Till May 4th of this year, he was up almost every night till 4
Wow.
every
Wow.
night. We had to come up with a way that we could still keep ourselves connected. And what we decided to do was, you know what, Friday nights is ours. Friday night, nobody works. Saturday night, nobody works. Sunday, you can do your work if you want to, but Fridays and Saturdays are family time. And then Friday night, Saturday night, once our son's asleep, that's our time. We'll watch a movie, we'll go out for date night. And that's how we've kind of found the balance, was to get those 2 nights that are uninterrupted. Because for us, quality time matters a lot more. So it's better to have 3 to 4 hours, 2 nights, versus having 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there, where we're barely connecting because we both know we've got to get back to something else.
Of
Right?
course.
Finding that way to just make sure that quality time is respected
Yep.
has been huge for our marriage and for our parenting journey as well.
That's really admirable. For someone who isn't a parent yet, but is an entrepreneur, I really hope to take the lessons that you've just shared and have that balance, because it's really important, like you said, to put a priority on your relationship and on your child. And, you know, you had that wake up call of, okay, mom's working too much. If he wants to be a printer, like maybe that's what she needs to pay attention to me, you know, like it's
Yeah.
such an interesting story.
And the
And
thing is, with business, especially if you're driven individuals, there will always be work to do.
yes,
Always. So if you don't make the conscious decision to say, hey, this time is blocked out, you will always fill it with work because it will always be
absolutely.
there. And we also pay attention. We do like a marriage during quarantine thing. So there's been a free marriage seminar that we attend every Saturday morning. It's only an hour. It's actually at 12 to 1, so it's afternoon. 12 to 1 on Saturdays. It's just a quick hour. And it's a marriage seminar online where there's just people talking. And we take that time, and we chose to attend because it forces us to talk about things that we normally wouldn't
Right.
talk about. And it's been really eye-opening for us. And I'm also doing a wives seminar as well, separately from that. And that's Wednesday evenings. And, you know, one of the tricks, I'm making up my own words right now. One of the tricks I learned from that over the last week, we talked about sex, was one of the wives had said that for her in her marriage, what they found was they would go out for dinner and they'd be so tired when they get back home and like, oh, we're going to have sex. And they never did because they were just exhausted from the food or just from whatever
Right.
they did. And she said their game changer was they would have sex before going to dinner. I was like, I've never thought of that. So she said for her, they've been doing that for, I can't remember how many years. She said for them, it works amazingly because then you
Right.
go out, do whatever, you can get a
Right.
stretch on, and you can get home into your comfy PJs and go to sleep. And no
Right.
worry about that. So you're still tending to the intimate part of your relationship
Right.
while still maintaining all the other aspects as well.
Yeah. That is mind blowing to hear. I mean, just disrupting the schedule and the routine of what it would be usually. I mean, you think of date night of like going out for dinner as like the starting and then everything should flow, but it just naturally doesn't.
Yeah.
And like you said, the coming home, being tired, wanting to get comfy right away. But disrupting that, I kind of like that. That's a really great tip to share.
Oh yeah. I'm definitely
Yeah,
once quarantine's over, like that is my new go-to.
I love it. Yeah, thank you so much. What would you say keeps you motivated?
Ooh, I'd say just my past and my future, if that makes sense. I'm just coming from, like, I was born and spent my first 10 years of life in Nigeria, and I know what my parents sacrificed and did to get to Canada to give us this, better opportunity. So for me, it's just not wanting to squander that
Yeah,
and wanting to make the best of the life that I've been given and wanting to be an amazing example to my son because I want him to always strive to be the best that he can be and not be labeled by the world's constructs and knowing that, you can do what you want to do. You don't have to, work for someone and do the 9 to 5 and follow the rules by the book. You can
yeah,
break out and do what works for you, what drives you. I learned this in school, and that your passion will always take you further than your work.
yeah, yeah,
Always.
absolutely.
So it's to instill for me, I think that's my biggest motivator is to instill the need for passion into my son and make sure that he lives a life that is driven by that.
I love that. That's really great. I'm really big on passion as well. I mean, probably similar reasons to why you did your own thing is just, working for a company where you don't believe in or you're not passionate about what they're doing, so you decided to create something that you're actually passionate about, right? And it's important to instill that into your children as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So I wanted to talk about something that is extremely important right now and has definitely changed how things have been going in the world. The business world has been shaken up quite a bit as well, but I mean just the world in general. So I just kind of wanted to talk a little bit about recent events and if there's any way that you can articulate kind of what that experience has been like for you and talking about that with your family or your child at the moment.
Oh gosh, that's loaded. Okay, so I guess I'll kind of take it through a timeline.
Yep.
For me, there was a point in, what year is this? 2020. So about 4 to 5 years ago, when the police brutality started really surfacing in media, when people started really getting the cam footage and things like that started happening. And there was a huge surge, everyone was outraged when those things first started happening. And you think back to Trayvon Martin, I think people were very outraged at that time. And then at some point, we all became desensitized to it, myself included. And ironically, with the latest events following Floyd's death, um, the day before that happened, I believe, my husband had come down. I was making dinner. He came down and he was talking to me about the Central Park incident with the lady calling the cops on the man at the park. And I didn't even engage with him on the subject. And I remember he paused and asked me, he said, "Do you not care? Do you not want me to talk to you about this?" I said, "Honestly, I do care, but I just can't anymore. So just don't tell me." And I moved on cooking. And then the next day, Floyd happened. And that didn't even really hit home for me until I believe it was Thursday afternoon. I came home and I just went and picked up some scones from a local bakery. And I was going to sit down for lunch and enjoy my scone. And I went on Instagram as I was eating my scone, and I was just scrolling through, and I don't know where it came from, but the tears just started. And my husband was across the table from me, and he said, "What's wrong?" And I was like, "I just can't do it anymore. Why?" And I don't know what it was about just that moment in time that it really just finally hit me that, damn, why are we still here?
Right.
Why are we still here? Why is it in 2020 that the comments that I read under these posts are so insensitive and so disrespectful that it just really makes you wonder how far we've really come as humanity?
Yep.
You know, to see that and I've never watched the video and I don't think I ever will, but all I saw were pictures, and again, as I said earlier, I'm a visual person. So I
Yep.
couldn't imagine someone putting their knees on another human being's neck until they died and be okay with it and just move on and say that's okay. And I said, I don't care who you are. That's not okay.
No.
That is not okay to treat another human being like that at all, under any circumstance. I do not care what power you think you have or don't have. That to me is not okay. And that's what I think really made it hit home versus the people who had been shot. Because for me, shooting someone feels a little bit less personal. It's more intentional, but it feels like, you know, the person might be further away from you, so you don't really see their face. But this is like, his face is right there.
Yeah.
It's right there. You can see the pain, you can feel the pain, and for you to continue on with what you are doing just seems mind-blowing to me in so many ways. So with all of that happening, we've had a lot of conversations in my house that we've had in the past, but I think it's hit home a little bit closer this time around just because we have felt it's the sense of nothing's ever good enough, right? As a Black man, as a Black person, what can you do? What can you truly do to get the violence to stop? Is it saying, please stop, I'm hurt? No, because clearly that doesn't work, right? What can someone do to get someone to stop defiling them? Taking away your humanity and being okay with it and walking away to see another day. Because again, we put the shoe on the other foot, and we know it would not go down like this. Whether it was a Black man on a white man's neck, or someone doing that to a cop. Oh goodness, no. Definitely not. You would not leave that scene alive.
Yep.
So just think of all of those things and what makes it okay for someone to do that. Right? We have to question that about our humanity to the point. I mean, I have friends, and you know, we can go down the political route or not. And I've had friends that are, you know, Black women who support Trump. And that's fine. You can support whoever you want to support politically. For me, the issue, like, I've lost friends during this time, and one of them was for this reason, because for me, it's not about who you support. It's about where your humanity and empathy lies.
Of course.
When you see another human die, do you care or not? And if you are not able to care, I cannot be friends with you. Right? That's where I draw the line. I cannot be a family member of yours and love you if you can't love other people in a moment of pain and distress.
Yeah.
Right? And we have to see that people are people. A human's a human. A human is a human, and you have to understand that and respect that at all times. I do not care the color of their skin. You have to respect their humanity. And I always ask people this question who I've talked to recently, if people have said, oh, especially because right now I'm loving historical fiction books and World War II. And a lot of people say, you know, if I were alive back then, I would have done this or I would have done that and made sure it didn't happen.
Right.
And what are you doing now? Because guess what? Back then, the same excuses were made. The same people were like, oh, well, maybe the Jewish person isn't really a human being. Yes, they are. Don't be dumb.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So when you're faced with a chance today to speak up and speak against something, and you choose to do nothing, that's what you would have done back then. Maybe even worse, because then there was no proof. There was no digital footprint being left behind of what you've done. So you might have done worse back then.
Yep.
Right? So look deep into yourself and stand up for what's right and do the right thing. And for us, I've had I have a few other friends who are also in interracial relationships, and that's a very touchy subject at a time like this.
Right.
I have friends whose, in-laws have come out and said some really crazy things during times like these that unfortunately it does tell you what truly lies in the heart of those around you, right? Times of joy, times of, celebration, it's easy to get along. It's easy to love everyone. But when things are a little bit uncomfortable, where do you stand? Where do you speak up? Where do you not speak up? That's where you truly get to know someone's heart, is when things are not comfortable.
Right.
So I don't, yeah, I can go on and on, but.
No, thank you for sharing all of that. I mean, it's very important to hear everything that you had just said. And I mean, I absolutely loved what you had said about the difference between, just do you love a human or not? And like, just that aspect alone is like, do you react when a human is hurt? And it doesn't matter their background, their past, their hit, whatever. I mean, it's just, do you flinch? Do you even have that emotion? So I think that is such a great reminder to put everything into perspective about what people are talking about and what they're sharing, and that experience. And I mean, even it just makes so much more sense when you're trying to talk to people about the difference between Black Lives Matter and All Lives Matter. It's just one of those things where, I mean, I've seen so many incredible examples of why the All Lives Matter thing is just not relevant at all. Not relevant at all. So it's important for us to have these conversations. As a white business owner, it's been incredibly reflective for me, because I know in my heart of hearts, I have privately supported Black people. I've privately supported businesses and causes and etc. But it was just such a reflective time of not letting my community, not letting my supporters, followers, whatever that is, know that I do that and feel that way as well. So it was incredibly reflective as a business owner to sit back and think, okay, so what am I actually putting out there? If someone were to look at my feed right now, if someone were to look at my client list, if someone were to look at this, etc., what are they seeing? And it's important for me to let people know. If I think they know, that's not enough. I need to let people know. I need to let people where I stand, let people know where I stand. It's not enough for us to assume that people know the way that we feel and think about things. It's just gone on too long. It's gone on too long for us not to be allies and us not to support and stand with our Black community and let people know how we feel and what we support. And so that to me was very eye-opening, in the sense of, okay, I think I've done enough, but I have not even close to doing that. So it was something that I can definitely say I've seen in the Vancouver business community as well. And it's just so interesting to see how long it's taken for us to get to that point, and that we thought it wasn't something we ever needed to do, when of course it absolutely is something that we needed to do.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think for so long, people have sat in this place of, well, it's not really my problem.
Yep.
Well, it doesn't really hit close to home. I haven't seen it happen, so I can't speak on that. And it doesn't need to be something you see happen for you to take action.
Absolutely.
You don't have to witness someone get sexually assaulted to know that it's wrong.
Yep.
You don't have to witness that to be on the side of justice that says, no, you cannot do that to a person. We're going to stand up with the victim. and not against them, right? So it's the exact same way. You have to be able to see what's happening, even if you can't see it with your own eyes, understand it's happening, respect that it's happening, and make the changes necessary to go down the right path. I did a personal call out on my business account, and I'm not a huge call out person, but I did a call out on my business account, calling out those who had never supported Black businesses before and were now on this hunt for Black businesses. And I said, you know what, as much as we appreciate your support, what we need is for you to sit down and ask yourself, why didn't you support a Black business in the first place?
Yep.
Why did you stay away? Because if you choose to support a business now just to be in solidarity for the month of June, for the second week of June, or whatever the case is, what happens next week? What happens next month?
Yep.
You just check off your box to say, okay, well, done. You know, I've supported a Black business. Next. And that's not what it is. It should just be a part of what you do. It should be a part of how you live. My husband and I had a conversation, ironically, about 2 to 3 weeks ago. About 3 weeks ago, we watched the movie American Son. And after it finished, we both had a moment to reflect. It was a very, very loaded movie. And we talked a lot. And one of the conversations we had was something as simple as the media you consume. We do live in a country where the majority is the white population, and that is okay. That is reflected all around us in what we see. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't try to consume other things. You know, we look at, I brought up an example to him. I said, you know what, when you go to Netflix to choose a movie, how many people just scroll by the Black movies? Unless it's Will Smith or Denzel Washington.
Right.
Scroll on by. If it's not the biggest Black actors, you scroll on by. And him and I debated this very well in that, because one aspect was like, well, people feel that maybe they can't relate to Black culture the same. And I rebutted that and said, I can't relate to all the white movies I watch. I still watch them.
Yeah.
Romantic comedy is still romantic comedy.
Yeah.
I still watch it.
Right.
Black romantic comedies, people don't give it the same light of day as they would C-list actress or actor in a romantic comedy.
Yep.
Right? It gets more than the Black movie would. And that's just that internal bias that many people have been raised with and don't realize, they don't reflect on it.
Yep.
Right? Just what movies you watch, what books you buy your kids. I have always been a huge proponent of that. Like before, you know, this became the thing. I have always bought books for my son and checked books out for my son that had Black people in it and white people in it. I've had friends ask me, you know, how can I teach my child diversity and inclusivity? And my response has been, you can't, it's not about teaching it. I said, look in your library at home. How many books have protagonists that are Black characters? That's how you teach it. Are the protagonists Black characters? Or are they brown characters? Are they Indian? Are they Chinese? Like whatever ethnicity you want to choose.
Right.
Do they look different from your child?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? You want to curate a library that reflects the world. Yeah. Allow your child to see positive images of others. That's not just them. Other people sharing the same values that you want to instill in them. Get a book that teaches about caring for other people that might have an Indian boy on it. That's okay. That's how you teach diversity to kids. That's how you teach inclusivity to kids. Just normalize it and make it a part of their lives, and they don't have to think about it.
Yeah,
you don't have to make it. That's just all I've done. Like if they went to a bookstore and they saw a book by a Black man, they'd pick it up the same way they would pick up a white author's book. It wouldn't make a difference because it's just a book that they're reading.
Right. Because they've been introduced to that type of content. It's nothing new. It's nothing foreign to them at all.
It's very important that it's positive. And I shared this with friends that it's great to show your kids the Black rappers. It's good to show your kids the Black athletes. But what that also teaches is Black people are only athletes or rappers.
Yep.
There are also Black doctors. There are Black chefs. Show them all ranges of the spectrum that you can be anything. And these people can also be anything the exact same way that you can. And that's okay.
That is so powerful to say that, because it's very true that people associate certain career choices, and it's one of those things that you don't just continue to show the same career choices or et cetera, right? So I really like that perspective. Have you had to have any conversations in the last few weeks with your son about anything?
I have. Um, so we have introduced him to, because he has noticed, we all have different skin colors in our home. He
Right.
has noticed that. So he calls himself light brown, mommy's dark brown, and he says dad's peach. That's cool. Um, so that was his little introduction to it, and that's just his labeling, and that's what he came up with, and we're okay with that.
Right.
But since all of this happened, it was just I think it was 2 Sundays ago, that I broke down in front of him, and he came up to me and gave me a big hug and was like, "Mommy, what's wrong? Why are you crying?" And I had to explain this, because people are mean. And why are people mean, Mom? I said, I don't know why. Some people don't like us because our skin's different from them.
Mm.
And to have that conversation, and he couldn't understand it. And he's like, why? I said, I don't know why. They just don't like it. Why don't they like it, Mommy? What's wrong with it? There's nothing wrong with it. They just don't like it. They don't like things that are different from them, and that's not okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And to have that conversation with him without putting the weight of the world on him, because that's not what I want to do for my 4-year-old. I don't want him to have the weight of the world on his shoulders and feel like he has to represent Black people everywhere he goes. Yeah, it's a tough conversation to have with a 4-year-old. It's really tough.
Of course.
Really tough.
Yeah, of course.
Because the one thing with him, for example, like, my husband's side of the family, like my husband, his nieces and nephews are all very blonde kids. He is not at all a blonde child. And he stands out in the group. And that's never been a problem. And I don't want him to feel that it's a problem. I want him to always know that he is just as much a found as everybody else is.
Right.
Right? That's what I want him to always know and always remember. But still, he does have to know that he does still have more risks than they do.
Right.
We teach him that. Like my husband and I talked about something as simple as going to certain events with his cousins, how in the future we probably won't let him do certain things with his cousins because they will not understand the risks that exist when he's there. Right? They won't understand that, oh, our cousin who's darker than us might be perceived differently than us. So maybe we do this. Maybe we shouldn't just, go jumping off school. I don't know. I'm trying to think of, silly things that kids do just for fun.
Right.
If he's in there, and a lot of, like, my husband grew up on a farm, so his siblings all live in very rural areas.
Right.
So I wouldn't want him to go over there and do the same silly things his cousins are doing in a rural area, because he will not be received the same way as his cousins will be. So there's still a difference that I do have to have him understand, but I still want him to know that he's still the same as his cousins.
Right. Yeah, that's a very hard future situation that you will have to explain, which again is I think a part of what white people don't understand is that difference of, well, we can, be silly when you're young, as in elementary school and high school or whatever it is. You can do things that are a bit rebellious here and there. But if you are someone of color, it's going to be completely different, and having that, the consequences are just going to be completely different, and it's just something that you have to, as a mother, have to explain to your child that people who are white probably don't ever think of that conversation or have to have that conversation. I mean, if they did, it would be a different reason, but not the same context of what you have to have with your child.
Exactly. And it's unfortunately, the fact that it exists today and existed 50 years ago, and we are hoping it doesn't exist in 50 years from now, but we
Yeah.
truly don't know.
Right.
We have to prepare him for that. And as an adult myself, these decisions affect every aspect of our lives that we don't realize. One of my very close girlfriends was getting married this year, was going to have a bachelorette in Nashville, and wanted all her girlfriends to be there. And I had to decline. And this was, pre-COVID, obviously, back in January. You know what? I'm going to go to Nashville for my bachelorette. And I had to decline the invitation. And for me, the main reason was because I do not feel comfortable being the only Black girl with a group of white girls in country bars in Nashville.
Right.
And I love her, and I know she loves me as well. We've known each other for over 10 years now. But in that situation, I don't know where you would stand because you've never been in that situation before. If we walked into a bar and it's the wrong bar, because we don't know, we're not from Nashville. We don't know the good bars and the bad bars and where we shouldn't be.
Yeah.
If we went to the wrong bar and walked to the wrong place and someone said something to us, I would be by myself.
Right. Right.
Right? They're not looking at the white girl and saying, what are you doing here? They're looking at me. Right? So that is how much it affects our everyday living.
Yeah.
That I can't come down to Nashville with you. Can I go to Nashville with other Black people? Yeah, I can, because we'll probably be in a place where it'll be okay for us to be there.
Right.
Others who are from Nashville, probably, because they'll probably know the lay of the land a little bit more. But it's doing things like that others take for granted because of the color of their skin. That as a Black person, we have to think twice that, hey, I might not be allowed over there. And if I do go over there, there will be consequences that you can't save me from.
Yep. That is such a powerful story to share, because I just don't think it's something that the majority of people even think about. Something as innocent as a bachelorette party where it's all fun and games and happy moments. I mean, I don't think a white person thinks twice about that happening.
Right.
And I mean, if you even brought it up, I mean, I don't want to speak for your friend if you did bring it up, but just thinking about that situation, I'm sure it would be something that's easy brushed off to just say, it's fine, I got your back, it's all cool.
Absolutely.
But like you said, it's that next level of the unknown of, but can I be safe? Will I be backed up? Will I be supported? I mean, I think that is a really eye-opening story to hear.
Oh yeah, that's the reality of things, right? That's what we face. Like, I've been to Memphis before with family, but again, and when we went, we stayed in a certain part of town, right? We didn't leave we went there to see all the Underground Railroad history and to see the Martin Luther King history. That's what we went for, was a historical trip.
Yeah.
But then we were still very alert, and we're at the right times, because all around Tennessee, all around Memphis, there's still remnants of slavery left behind. Auction block, there was an auction block that was still there where Black people were sold, and that was still visible. You could walk by, like, yep, there's the auction block right there. That is a huge microaggression that exists, especially in the South of the state. It's that fact that, like, I can walk by somewhere where I knew people who looked like me were sold. And like, there was a meme I saw the other day that really kind of made it resonate even more, was that this wasn't that long ago.
Right.
Slavery, segregation was not that long ago. The people who went to segregated schools are still alive today.
Yep.
Which means that alive today are people who believed in segregation, who want society to still be segregated, whose parents instilled that in them.
Yeah, absolutely.
That still exists today. It was not that long ago.
Yeah.
And we're that far removed from it as Canadians ourselves. The last segregated school in Ontario only closed down, I believe, in 68 or so. The last one in Canada closed down Nova Scotia in 87 or 89. So it really wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's interesting when you think about it that way of, when people think, especially in Canada, you see what's happening in the US, and it's easy to say, oh, well, Canada's not like that. There's no racism in Canada. We're not like that at all. But as you mentioned, some of those things were so recent. We were only a year or so after, like you said, in Nova Scotia, we were born. 30 something years ago, right?
Yeah.
So it's something to, think about our own history, our own background in Canada, and still seeing how recent that is. And again, that this has been brought to the attention of the world with all of the riots and everything, just last week, that it's not history. It's the same thing that is continuing to happen, even though those schools may not exist, even though that block still isn't being used. There's still different ways that it is existing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. In a lot more ways than we realize. And that's why the target of the riots and protests is systemic, because that's where it exists. That's where the underlying issues are, because everyday individual racism, you can fight that a lot easier than you can fight the system.
Right. Right.
You can only fight individuals so far before you hit a systemic issue that you can't fight by yourself.
Right.
You can't fight the legal system by yourself. Right? Those are things that you can't fight. The fact that the gun laws in the United States, the NRA, they were for gun protection. Like the word is skipping my mind right now. But
it's okay.
They essentially, the only reason why gun laws came into place in the US was because the Black Panther got some guns in California. And they're like, hey, we don't want citizens just walking around with guns. That's not okay. And the laws came into place, and it was specifically targeted towards the Black people who were now holding weapons.
Right.
Being a problem. And they weren't using the weapons. They were simply educating other Black people on how to protect themselves, on how to respond to law enforcement. That's what they were doing at that time. But the presence, the physical presence of it was so threatening, right, that gun laws and all of that had to be put into place to stop that. Right? What was ironic was when the COVID issues started coming up in the US, people wanting states to open back up, and all these pictures started popping up of these white men in front of, state capitol buildings with guns. I remember seeing those pictures and saying to my friends, like, could you allow Black people? They would have killed all of them instantly without even thinking twice.
Right.
How ironic is it that you fast forward a few weeks later and these riots and protests are getting so out of hand, and these people they're not even armed.
Yeah.
They're not even armed, and they are getting 10 times the pushback than these other citizens got who stood on the front of a building bearing public arms.
Yep.
And it was okay.
Yep.
They just wanted their freedom back. That's all we want too, is our freedom back as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Those are just such two examples of, again, one that you 100% should do something about, and another that they are doing something about it, but it's not the right, it's just very crisscross. It's very backwards of treatment, of course.
Issues.
That's exactly it.
What it boils down to. Because I can almost guarantee, and I can't speak because it didn't happen, thankfully, but if that were 40 Black men and women with weapons, it would be a completely different headline we would be looking at.
Yeah, absolutely. In that media, that's where media needs to do better as well. And media, the sharing and the promotion of things that are not true and highlighting things that are not as relevant and important as other things that are not being highlighted and not being shown and shared with everyone else. So yeah, the media is a huge problem as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I don't want to assume that anything has changed for you in the last week, because I mean, we've talked a lot about it being the exact same, nothing changing, but has anything changed or shifted for you in the last week in the sense of anything for you?
So and that's regarding just the civil unrest as a whole. Honestly, for me, I'd say the biggest change has been the reemergence of the issue as a whole. I know I myself I remember again when this first became an issue, when Black Lives Matter first became a movement that was publicized, and this was, I believe, in 2016. And at that time, I had a cousin, or I have a cousin, I guess. She was married to a white cop. And I had posted something. There was just, I think it was the night, and I can't remember. There's so many names which is just so sad that there's so many names.
Of course.
But there had been a murder by a police officer that happened. And I woke up in the middle of the night and I saw it on my phone. And I was just so upset by it. I was so incredibly upset that I wrote a long Facebook post about it and went to sleep eventually, because I was just so disturbed that night. Went to sleep eventually, and I woke up to so many texts and notifications from family members, all asking me to take down the post, delete what this person said, don't respond to what this person said. And what happened was my cousin's husband had commented on it as a cop, and said, and I can't even repeat everything that he said on this post. He said so many outrageous things that I could not believe it. And I was just like, and you're married to a Black woman? How is that even possible?
Right.
Right? How is that even possible for you to be so racist?
Yeah.
And you're just okay with it. And that led to the end of their marriage. A few months later, they were divorced.
Wow.
Because the truth came to light. And for me, I've been so grateful to see the man that I married through times like these, that he is not that person.
Right.
Because that is one part of being in an interracial relationship that you just don't know. You know, but you just don't know until times like these happen where someone stands.
Right.
And in my marriage, I've been so blessed to see that I'm married to someone who stands for social justice no matter what. Yeah. That is his motivator. He stands for that. And ironically, something that I fell in love with him for. And it wasn't tied to Black Lives Matter. It was tied to, I saw him as a person that cared for people. He has a heart for people. He doesn't do people wrong. And I saw that in him. And if over the last week for us, I'd say what has changed is just a new appreciation for who I partnered with. Right? Seeing someone that supports me through these hard times, that knows that although he doesn't feel it,
right,
he understands it. He can be there through those moments. He can call his parents and have that tough conversation with them.
Right.
Right. He has done that. He has called his siblings and done the same thing, to have those conversations, because many people cannot do that.
Right. Right.
Fear of ruffling too many feathers. He is okay to do that, to stand up for what's right. So what's changed for me is seeing him in that light and appreciating him even more, to know that this is the right person for me. And in our case, and we said this, but it's hard to use it as an example for others. But for the both of us, we are each other's first out of race relationship, if that makes sense. Like
Right.
he's first
Yep.
Black, and I was his first non-white girl that he ever dated.
Right.
And who would have known? And like neither of us expected to be where we are today with each other, but we are. And that's because we saw each other as just people.
Right.
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 And we just fell in love with that, with our hearts, with what truly lies behind each human being.
Yep.
Right. And I think that's what's important to get across to people is like take the time and get to know others. Look at your friend circle. If you live in a metropolitan city, there is no reason why you don't have one person that doesn't look like you as a friend. There
Yep.
is no reason why you don't have, whether it's an Asian person, whether it's a South Asian person, whether it's a Black person, there's no reason why you don't have someone who doesn't look like you as a friend. If you're in a rural city, rural area or town, that might be different because exposure isn't there. But if
Right.
you're exposed, you need to ask yourself, why do you not allow certain people into your lives, into your life
Right.
to get to know you and vice versa, and do the same for them? Open yourself up. It's okay to say hi to someone that looks a little bit different from you. It's okay to take the conversation a little bit deeper and just get to know them. Ask them a question.
Yep.
Take it from there and just talk to them like a normal person and just let your hearts be open to other people. And that is okay. And I have been a huge proponent of that for a very long time, especially since I met my husband. That's been my thing. I've known many people because I will stand here and tell you myself that I was, oh, I don't see myself with a white man. I was very much that girl. And that's because of so many preconceived notions that exist of like, yeah, white people are never for you. They're never on your side.
Right.
Right. And to then get to know someone, like when I got to know my husband, as I said, we worked together. We met at work.
Right.
And I was actually trying to get him to date one of my girlfriends. I'm like, this guy's really funny. He's a really good guy. Like he's one of those guys at the lunch table who's gonna go to like the most loneliest person and bring them over and say, come sit with me and have lunch with me. Like he's that guy. He's great. I tried with my girlfriend. I'm like, just talk to him. He's awesome. Because I truly believed he was such a great person. Right? So it's just there's so much goodness in people if we just give them a chance.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I love that. And again, just getting back to the simplicity of we're all just humans. I mean, we all are just humans when you strip everything else away. And like you said, if you just get to know someone, if you ask questions, I mean, you'll end up realizing we are all so much more similar than we all think and assume and etc. Right? It's just it's that thing that is something that we need to stop thinking about, right? And just put the focus on the human aspect. Like you said, you fell in love with a human, not with a white man. You fell in love with the human of him.
Exactly.
Um, so I'm just trying to think of what to kind of say next, but what would you say are some Black-owned businesses that we can be supporting or that you want to kind of highlight at the moment?
Honestly, for me, when it comes to that question, kind of piggyback into what I said earlier, is go online, right? Whatever it is you're interested in, if you search, you will find.
Yep.
It's often a lot easier than we think it is to find what we are looking for by Black-owned businesses. An example
Right.
in the planner community, when, again, this whole support Black-owned business movement came about, people were asking, hey, could you please, tag me and let me know what Black-owned shops exist? And my response was often, no, I can't because they've been here for 5 years.
Right.
So have you. You've also been in this community, so they existed. You've seen them. You've just ignored them. So
Right.
go back to the drawing board, type in Black-owned planner shops, and you will find them.
Yep.
They exist. Part of allyship is being willing to do the work.
Right. Right.
That is a huge part of being an ally because when I want to learn about the history of Jewish oppression, I don't expect a Jewish person to educate me.
Right.
I have to take this initiative myself to get educated. And if there's blanks that are still missing, I can then go and ask someone that, hey, I learned this, but I don't really understand this part. Could you please clarify?
Yeah.
And at that point, they will gladly clarify. But it's not up to the person who wants to be taught to go and say, hey, teach me everything. Well, no, we live in a world now where there is information out there if you want to get it.
Yep.
And that has to be, for me, that is why I'm not one who wants to put out big lists of books or lists of movies or lists of shops, because I want people to take the time out of their day
Yep.
and do some research on what, if you're looking for a clothing line, there are so many clothing lines out there, so many with great quality products. Like, I'm a huge graphic hoodies and graphic t-shirt person, and all the ones that I've purchased from were Black businesses. And that was because I was looking for Black businesses. I just typed it in and I was like, oh, there's one by a Black business. I supported them. Why not? So if it's something that you want, you go online. There is a plethora of knowledge out there that you can get, and resources that exist to get that information based on where you live and what you're interested in and what you need to fill whatever space in your life at the time.
Yeah. I love that answer. Thank you so much for that. I do 100% agree that it is up to people who want to be allies to do the work, to not make it easy. It's not been easy for yourself. It's not been easy for your community either. And taking the shortcuts and, getting the cheat sheets, etc. It's not up for you to kind of put that work into place. So yeah, thank you so much for that answer. I greatly appreciate that. I really appreciate you reflecting and sharing your stories with this. I don't even want to say current event, because it's something that is ongoing continuously. So I just want to say thank you for sharing your experience. It's still something that is need to be heard, and it's something that we need to continue to share. How can we support yourself and your business right now?
Honestly, the easiest way is follow on Instagram, follow me on YouTube, whichever way you prefer, at Naomi Love Designs, at Wemi F. And for me right now, I have been pretty silent on both ends, just because I've had a lot of turmoil going on in here with everything right now, that I haven't felt right promoting anything, to be honest. I've had a lot of customers reach out to me saying, hey, are you going to create something for Black Lives Matter? And I've said no, because right now my head is just not in the right space to do that, and I'm not going to force it. I'm not going to create anything right now because I can't. It's been a little bit too tough for me to take it to a creative place. So I am not really posting much on there, because I am trying to just keep on walking each day and not have a breakdown of what is happening around me.
Absolutely. And I think you have every right to make that decision. And like you said, it's not up to you to kind of give people the guidelines or the emotion of yourself at this moment.
Yeah.
And if you feel the need to be silent, to not silent in a way that you're not supporting it, but it's your self-care moment. It's your time for your self-care moment to take care of you, reflect on everything, and decide to get back to business or whatever that looks like when you are up to do that.
Yeah, that's kind of what I've come to at this point. I've felt the pressure a lot, but I can't do something that's not true to who I am. And right now, to put content out for the sake of people needing content, it's not true to who I am.
Yeah, Absolutely, absolutely. Again, thank you so much for sharing all of that. I just have two more questions before we kind of end everything. Um, what would you say is an accomplishment that you're extremely proud of?
Probably, I'd say right now it would be definitely my planner shop. I am now 3 years in the game. I have a standalone website. I have Etsy as well. And on Etsy, I think I've hit over 9,000. I'm pretty close to the 10,000 mark of sales. Um,
Wow, amazing.
and I honestly, I remember when I first opened my shop and I look up to other shops like, oh my gosh, they have 5,000 sales. Wow, I can't wait till I get there one day. Like that is so far off. So for me to get there in 3 years, I am extremely, extremely proud that I was able to do that and being completely self-taught. I am very proud.
Absolutely. No, huge congratulations to that. It is extremely hard to be an entrepreneur. It is extremely hard to keep going, to be successful and still thriving after 3 years is a huge thing to be proud of. So that is incredible, incredible.
Thank you.
And the last question I have for you is, what is the best thing about being a Black female?
Oh man, everything. Honestly, I think, ooh, how do I answer that question? What is the best thing about being a Black female? I think it's just, I feel like I love life differently. um, I am unapologetically me at all times, and I have come to truly love my Blackness in all its fun and crazy ways. I remember even the decision to like go natural with my hair. That was quite a process. But I've now come to a place that it's just, I love every part of who I am. And I love educating others on who I am as well, because it's great to have people who don't really know what it means to be a Black woman, who don't really know what a Black woman's hair journey is. Our hair is a huge part of who we are, whether we choose to keep our hair a certain way or not. It still defines so much of how we live and what we do. Although we're not defined by it, it's still a huge part of who we are. Like I remember being in the corporate world, I used to work from home on Mondays. And the main reason was so I could wash my hair. That was why I worked from home on Mondays. So I could treat my hair because every time if I want to give my hair a good wash, I need to have 3 hours of deep conditioning time and another 2 hours to dry it out and all of that process. And I didn't want to waste my Sunday and being stuck indoors washing my hair all day on Saturday or Sunday. Like, well, I might as well work at home indoors and wash my hair at home.
Yeah.
Right. And like that's what I meant. It's just, it's so much of how we live and the beauty and the struggles of it all. We love it. Like if you go on YouTube, there's such a huge community of just Black women hair, and you can see just what it means to live in that world. And I love it. It's probably one of my favorite, which is ironic because I complain a lot about my hair, but one of my favorite things is the ability to be what I feel like and let my hair roll with it. We have Black hair salons that are such a huge part of our community as well. Like I am one. I do not really go to the salon anymore because I'm just tired of getting my hair done, and I'm in a phase right now where we're kind of fighting, but we still love each other. But it's the Black hair salon experience where you can go there and have these women who are it's like a second home, right? To have these people that you don't know that you can talk to about anything in your life, and what happens in the salon stays in the salon. We can have that experience. And I love our community as a whole, that even in moments of strife and moments of uncertainty, Black women we do band together and we do stand up for each other and with each other, and we love and we love through that. So that's my long answer of my
I
favorite.
love it. No, I love it so much. Thank you so, so much for sharing that with us. Is there anything else you want to share before we finish?
Um, Honestly, I'm gonna share two kind of not really related things, but I'm sure
No
I'll make
problem.
them related somehow. The first is, like I said earlier with my husband and I, like it's a journey that I didn't envision myself being on. You know, I didn't envision myself being married to a white man at any point in my life. Did I ever envision that? And even as we got together, I still fought it a lot because I was just like, no, this I don't know, but I think for others out there, especially for women who are in a space of singleness and wanting something else, just be open and be open to things that are not on your checklist, especially because as women, we often tend to have this list of what our man and future is going to look like. And I say for that, be open. And that's whether you've been married and you're, starting a second phase of your life, whatever it is, I think just be open to those that are around you. And through it all, be unapologetically you. And the right person will always love you for who you are. And you don't have to change for that. So that's my first. And then secondly to that is there's so much to Black people. There's so much to being a Black woman, to being a Black man. And I think our society has come to a point where, yes, Black people are not the majority, but I strongly believe that our society needs to get to the place where we embrace Black people as a part of society. Embrace Black music, embrace Black movies, embrace Black books. I am not saying every book is going to be for you. I'm not saying every movie is going to speak to you, but be open to it. Be open to the Black experience, the Black culture, and not just dumb the voice of Black people down to whatever box you've created, whether that's they need to stay in the entertainment industry, they need to stay in the sports industry, they need to stay in this little box I've created for them. Be open to knowing that Black people exist in every facet of life, in every industry, in every world. Black people exist, and there is greatness to be found in the people around you. That's that.
Amazing. Thank you so, 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 so much. I greatly appreciate you sharing everything with me today. Um, I know that you mentioned it briefly, but can you share again where we can find you?
At Naomi Love Designs, at Wemi F. Is Wemi F.
Amazing.
Is that my Instagram? I believe so.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time today. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank
I'm
you so much for
very
having me.
excited to share your story with everyone.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm glad I got to have a quick chat with you on here. It's been great.
Yeah. Yeah, you're welcome.